Hey, good people, Batavia here. So, we're talking how the garden and gardening can be healing. So, my buddy Ben and I were on an episode of the Backyard Gardens podcast, and the episode was about what we're thankful for. And one of those things was really how the garden had been healing for me this year in particular. And so, when I listened back and watched the episode again, these handful of minutes you're going to see next were really important, really summed up my overall experience with gardening and specifically for this year. So I wanted to take that out and share it with you all. I hope you all are doing well, and yeah, that's what I got. I'll see you all in the next one.
Gardening has been healing for me this year. I really leaned into it and leaned on it, depended on it, if you will. And I think I've been thinking about it, like I feel like I guarded my way through grief. I feel like I guarded my way through like the impacts of being socially distanced
Mm-hmm.
from, so many people, life being so different. I think I gardened my way through like just watching the world be turned upside down, and I'm thankful that I had gardening to lean on, and I've been worried about kind of as the garden season is kind of winding down in the previous state. I've been worried about it, and I've been thinking about, everything that I was kind of using gardening to help me cope, not get over, but help me cope with. Like those things are still present, right? And gardening isn't in its previous form. And so then I realized, obviously we talked about a couple other things we're going to be working on this fall and this winter. And I'm like, it's really what I make of it, So there are different ways that I can experience gardening, and so I'm thankful for kind of the healing properties, if you will, that the garden
Yeah.
and the act of gardening has had over the course of this year. And then the wherewithal to say, you just don't have to close yourself up and say, all right, wait until next spring. Like there are other things that can lend itself to that good feeling that I get from it.
Well,
So
imagine
yeah.
like this year when you started your seedlings, how it helped you. Just
Hmm.
that little bit, though. I mean, it gave you
Yeah.
something to tend and to think
Yeah.
about, and it occupies your mind.
Hmm.
The mind
Yeah.
is a very dangerous place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can go in a
Yeah.
lot of dark places
Yeah.
fast, real
Hmm.
fast. So I think it's,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that gardening is very healing.
Hmm.
And there's a whole thing called garden therapy that
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, have you ever
I'm people.
have you ever heard
People
about
are me.
grounding?
No, I don't think so.
So, I'm not an expert on this at all, but do you garden barefoot at all?
No.
Oh, girl, there goes sorry dog.
She's
So,
like, you don't garden barefoot.
yeah, she was
What?
pissed. She's like, I do. Um, so it's all about like your feet being connected to the earth and the electrical fields going through you and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I've heard
So
of this, but I didn't
yeah, it's
realize the
called
name of it.
grounding. So you can get like grounding blankets and stuff like that are like weighted and they have like a little electricity pulse that go through it to
Mm-hmm.
kind of do it. But they say it's very healing to like go outside barefoot and
Mm-hmm.
connect your feet to the earth and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a little too out there for me to,
Yeah.
but
Eccentric. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, eccentric. And I mean, I garden barefoot all the time. It's one reason why I don't have mulch in between my beds, which I need to do, but I
Yeah.
don't want that in between my toes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it is something, and that's part of the whole thing is being outside, getting your hands in the dirt, being connected to everything. It's really important. So,
I sent one of my colleagues and a friend, I've worked with for eons. I sent him a message. This is maybe last week, um, and I thanked him. Right, So this is one of the colder mornings in Chicago, and I'm cranky about it being cold. That's who I am. That's, half of Chicagoans, I'm just making up that figure.
she ain't
Half of
lying.
Chicagoans are, yeah, and I'm a morning person, but it's the coldest in the morning. So it's just a whole mess. But I sent him a message, sent him a couple of pictures that I had taken as I did my garden walk. And I basically walked around pacing in my garden as I drank my coffee, right? And I was thanking him because I remember us kind of having a random conversation years ago. He has he and his wife have a lake house. And so they spend time kind of in the lake house. And he talked about how he enjoyed doing things like chopping wood there, and they were like putting up a deck one year, just being out there in the air, right? And not full on like nature walks or anything like that, which I'm sure those are healing too. But he commented on how it can really change the shape of your day. And so I've remembered that since he said it. And there are moments when I come outside, and it doesn't happen every time I'm outside. It doesn't happen every time I'm in the garden, but there are moments where I pause and I hear his voice in my head going through that. And it's because I feel that kind of something washes over you. Like you feel your hands in the dirt, right? You feel the fresh air versus the stale air that may have been in your house. So the other morning, I, layered up because that's how I do. Had on my hat, had on my 3 jackets.
Did you have socks on?
No socks. No
Okay.
socks. Still no socks.
No sock alert.
And as I walked outside, it literally turned my morning around. And it was exactly that. I wasn't even doing any work in the garden. I was just looking around at things, observing some things. But it was the air that was outside, it was there's still things that are growing. It was wait, is that a little bug there? So all of those things feed into it. So I definitely get the idea of, that kind of electricity that's coming through you, that connecting with, nature. It sounds so cliche, I know, but it's connecting with, that outside element, something that isn't just you, right? So
It's not cliche. It's not cliche because we are not meant to do what we do now. We are not meant to be sitting in front of computers recording our voices for people to listen to when they drive their cars going 45, 60, 70 miles an hour or whatever they're doing. That's not what we're meant to do. That's what we do. But we were not created to do that. You know what I mean? We were created to be outside and to be, think about it this way. If everybody grew their own food, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, and there wasn't these big farms, which I know civilization wouldn't be anywhere near what it is, but if you think about it, like, everybody would look at everything completely different. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes gardeners so special, because we all know what it takes to grow a garden. We all know what it takes to produce food, and it's not an easy job.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. Like generally the dreamer in me says I want everyone to grow something, but I'm not convinced that like if I had an abundance of wishes, that would be something I wish for. My grandmother, like I probably was in my early 20s. She told me everyone has a job. Like there's a job for everyone.
Right.
And it was said in light of never look down on someone for, what they do with their time, how they make a living.
Yeah.
Right. Like you got to think about there are things that need to be done and someone needs to do them. And I've been thinking about that as it relates to gardening and any other hobby. I think that while we're not in a place, thankfully, that, all of what we eat we're leaning on the garden for it, like as a civilization, like luckily that's not where we are. I do think that there is power in finding joy in what gives you joy.
Right.
So I think that I feel like there are people that could give gardening their all and it just not float their boat.
Oh,
and I think
for
that
sure.
has to be okay,
Yeah, so. No, I don't expect everybody to grow their own food, but what I'm just saying that like as gardeners, being in touch with where food comes from is very important, and I think it's very, using the term differently, grounding for us, because you know what I mean, and then you get it's like a whole mental game. Like, you said it helped you through a lot of problems. Of course it did. You grew it, you took care of it, you went all the way from seed to table on this. You know what I mean? And you're
not gonna do it. Nope.
What?
My nose is getting all hot. And I'm like, no, you're not gonna.
But I'm just saying, like, that's why it's a healing process for people, because you.